There is no question that something is here, lurking, somewhere in the darkened corners. But how will we ever find out what it is? We need to look, always, and never stop. No matter what stands in our way, no matter what others may think. Explore the darkness, shine light into it. Join the red strings and the silver threads. Everything is connected, somehow. I am Mark L. Watson. This is Peer Beyond the Veil.
I lived in a haunted house, actually two. And the first one wasn't that bad with my ex-husband, but it was unusual. And the second one was terrifying. I actually had to get medicated. I couldn't sleep. I was scared to sleep. The first haunted house, one of the first things that happened was I was taking a bath and my daughter was like 6 months old. And I saw what looked like a little shadow kind of creature run past the bathroom. It was kind of like squatted down. It was weird. It was about 3 feet tall. And so I went in her room to check, got out of the bathtub to check to see of it, and it was not in there. So of course you push it off as, did that really happen? Like, did I make that up? What was that? Then, so I had a dream. The attic was creepy, so we hardly ever used it. I had a dream a girl with wet hair came down from the attic, walked through the hallway into my room, stood next to me and watched me sleep as I stood next to myself and watched myself sleep too. And the girl was obviously dead and probably 18-ish. So then I woke up and I was like, wow, I've never watched myself sleep before in a dream. That was really creepy. And went to go get a glass of water and the attic door was wide open. And we didn't use the attic. And you couldn't go to my daughter's room if the door to the attic was open. It blocked it. So I don't know. That was really weird.
There's much to be discussed about what it is that makes certain people more prone to experiencing the paranormal than others, and it's something that we have indeed touched upon in previous episodes. Cynics will argue that those are the people with heightened agency detection, the mechanism that allows you to be aware of the rustling in the dark alley and to perceive what threat it poses, something we've kept since our primal days. But true believers would posit that those are the people amongst us who are able to see with a little more clarity beyond the oft-mentioned veil. One thing is certain, though, for those whose pathways have been opened to such things, life can be a roller coaster of weirdness. Shadow figures stand in the corner of rooms, horrible old hags wake you from your sleep, and flickers of communication from wherever arrive to you throughout the day or week like junk mail. It's something that most would say cannot be turned off, and something that should ideally be embraced and not shied from. Regardless, it's often beyond their control or command. My guest tonight has spent her life being visited by the beyond and has accepted it as part of her normality. With a huge array of published books covering topics such as haunted hotels, haunted hospitals, and haunted objects and items, and now with her very own fascinating podcast, The Ghosts That Haunt Me, it is our great pleasure to welcome Eve S. Evans to the show to discuss how she's come to accept the normalcy of being able to peer beyond the veil.
So my daughter and I were taking a nap, and I shut the bedroom door. And it was like a cop knock, like loud, shook the door. And I'm sitting there going, what the heck, we're home alone. So then I'm sitting there going, well, maybe it was on the front door and it was just so loud. It shook, So I go to the front door, no one's there. Walked around the house in case somebody possibly had come to the door and then went around back because we had a back door. No one. Went back in, laid back down. Everything was fine. Did it again like 10 minutes later. Freaked me out. I could not figure out what was knocking. So finally, I left the door a little bit ajar and it never happened again. It was like whatever it was didn't want me to have the door shut. It's the oddest thing. And so I would tell my ex-husband about it and he would laugh at me and make fun of me. And then one day he took a nap and it totally happened to him. I'm downstairs working and he comes running down the stairs freaking out. We're blessing the house tonight. We're blessing the house tonight. And I was like, oh, I get it. You took a nap, huh? So we lived in that house. And of course, that had me a little bit freaked out, but that wasn't like terrifying per se. And then we got divorced. I got remarried and we both had 2 kids. And then we had a kid together and we moved into a house together. And this house was only built in like 2007. It wasn't very old. But this house was bad. The first thing that happened, we were sitting on a couch in the living room, and the staircase to upstairs is between the living room and the kitchen. And my youngest daughter was afraid to go to the bathroom at night. So she would run from the bathroom and then run back. And so you'd hear pitter patter, right? Our son was 6 months old at that time in a crib. So it obviously wasn't him. But we heard that and we were like, oh, it's just Crystal going to the bathroom. Then we realized both of our exes had our kids, except for our son. And it was totally a little kid running up and down the hallway. Then that was the first one that was weird. We had banging on the wall from our son's room where his closet was that was so loud it shook our entire headboard and bed. On top of that, I would have night terrors. So I've had night terrors and sleep paralysis before, but I usually once or twice a year. I started getting it in that house every other day. And I'm not kidding you, every other day. And he would get it about once a week. So that was hard to even want to sleep then either. We had a little kid's claw machine from Walmart, and I was working downstairs. My son was sleeping. It went off, and it has clown music that it plays, and it goes faster as the claw drops. So it was like da 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 da, and freaked me out. Went upstairs, realized it was plugged in. I'm like, okay, maybe if I unplug it. Unplugged it, went back downstairs. About 10 minutes later, it goes off again. So I call my husband, freaking out, and he's like, well, did you check for batteries? And I'm like, oh, no, I did not check for batteries. So then I go up and take the batteries out and go back downstairs. And then 10 minutes later, it goes off again. Yeah. So that freaked me out. But at least it was during the day. You know, if it was at night, that would have freaked me out. But yeah, most of it happened during the day, except for the banging on the wall at night and the sleep paralysis. Everything else was during the day. So that house, there was just something evil there. I did see a shadow here and there, but I don't know if that was really anything. But the girls came to me after we moved out and told me that they saw a shadow woman, or what looked like a woman, standing in their room often in the middle of the night. And that's why they had to have a nightlight in their room. So I didn't know that. They didn't tell me that. And apparently all 3, because we had 3 girls in one room at that house, and all 3 of them had reoccurring nightmares all the time of somebody watching them sleep. And it was almost the same exact nightmare, which is really weird.
Do you have any
And
theories on the house? Have you looked into the history of the building or anything that leads you to maybe kind of what entities or anything were living in there? Or
I don't. I looked up, I couldn't see anything because it was, you know, not that old of a house at the time, because when we lived there, it was like 5 years old maybe. So I didn't find anything on it. But I did try to look it up, yeah, because it freaked me out. I wanted to know why. Because I really didn't see much per se. It was more noises and sounds, but I've learned that I'm an empath, and so I feel things. I definitely felt lots of evil in that house. It was not good, but we did drive by it actually this spring, when April, and we put it on Instagram. because we hadn't been there in a long time. I heard that there was a French family that bought it and moved in after we moved out. I was like, I always wondered. I want to go to the front door and knock and be like, so how's this house going for you? Just curious. You know? It's the kind of thing that has you wondering, like, is it bad for the other person or was it just messing with us? I don't know.
Yeah, it was something maybe
So-
just for you. Yeah, who knows? So you sent me an EVP from which you said from your house. Is that from the current house or is that from that house?
This house, I didn't do EVPs at the other house.
So
I
you've
wasn't
picked
into
stuff
that
up in
yet.
your current house as well.
Yeah, there's some things. It's
You're a
kind of
magnet.
subtle,
Sorry.
mostly. Yeah, they seem to like me, unfortunately. So I wonder, because I did start investigating this year. So I'm wondering if they're following me home or something. I don't know. But yes, I've caught a couple actually. There's been probably 10 that I've caught here now. And they're not mean or evil, but yeah, they're still creepy. So one night I was sitting on the couch and all the kids were gone and I was writing. And my dog's sitting on the couch next to me and the kitchen's to my left. And it was dark. I had the light off in there. And I heard a kid giggle. And I was like, I looked over at the kitchen, I'm like, that's odd. Like, did I really hear that? Like, because I'm writing creepy stuff. You know, you sit there and go, maybe I just like made it up, you know? And then my dog, I look over at her and she's like at alert. And I'm like, okay, kind of weird. Listen, nothing happened. So I'm like, all right. I go back to doing what I'm doing. And then about 5 minutes later, in the kitchen again, I look over there. My dog freaking flies off the couch and on the floor and runs in there. And she's like barred teeth, like, "Rrr," and she's not like that. I'm like, okay, she heard that one. And then I decided to turn my recorder on and I caught a man saying, hey, hi, I'm here. I thought I was hopefully going to catch a kid, but I did not. I caught a man. So I do it sometimes. I try not to do it too much because I feel like if I do it too often, I might be inviting it to be around more frequently.
Opening a door or
sense?
something. Yeah, sure. Sure.
Or acknowledging it too much is giving it power. I don't know. So if you want to say anything, you can. So if you want to say anything, you can.
So you've investigated some fairly special places. Can you tell us a little bit about one or two of them and some of the weirder things that you saw and heard when you were there?
I've done cemeteries. One of the cemeteries I did, I was EVPing when I walked out of my car. And I know usually you don't do it till you stand still. But I actually caught an EVP when I was walking. You can hear my keys jingling, and it's a little kid calling me mama. And there's no way it was a kid. We went to the cemetery, it was like midnight and dark. There's only a few cars on the road. There was no kids there, trust me. So that one really freaked me out a little bit. And then I got a woman saying, chill out. Another woman saying, hey, hun. And that one sounds like, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but when I hear that one, I just think of somebody from like the 1920s. Like it just makes me envision a lady from the 1920s. We did a prison.
You did the Idaho State Penitentiary, did you?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
And it's pretty creepy. Yeah. It's definitely has feelings. I've been there as a kid because they actually take you there on school trips in school, which now that I'm older, I think is kind of messed up. But, you know, because it's highly haunted. But we caught in cell 4, at first I walked in and cell 4 like just called me. And not like a, hey, come here. I just could feel evil radiating off of it, which is kind of feelings I get sometimes. And I could just envision in my mind this black mass in there. So I did as much as I could to get EVPs close to there or pictures. I did catch what looks like orbs in there, but then again, I'm not want to really believe the orb photos. You know, it's dusty, it's old. We went to the shirt factory, so I didn't get any EVPs in there, except for somebody banged on something that no one banged on. And then the shirt factory, we're sitting on the floor doing like what's called quiet time. When you investigate, you do quiet time so you can catch EVPs. And we're sitting there, and my back is to the shower where a man was murdered. I catch an EVP when I get home that says, I'm in hell, or it's in hell. And that same timestamp was when I felt like I was being touched by something. And it felt like kind of like when your foot goes to sleep, but not quite. It was like lighter than that, but it was kind of like a tingle on the side of my face. And at the same time, it felt like a spider was crawling up my hair, but like really, really lightly. And it just kind of went from my chin all the way to the top of my head and then just like went away. Like something just brushed my cheek with their hand or something. It was really weird. And then when I heard that I caught that EVP and it sounded like it was right there, freaked me out. And it's really fun as long as you keep yourself protected. You know, you say your prayers and don't invoke anything or purposely say stuff to make them angry. That's not a good start, for sure. I think that everybody leaves behind energy. I mean, I believe that's scientifically proven that our energy goes back into the earth. It is a cycle of energy. I feel like that energy, you know, lingers sometimes, or especially in cases of violent deaths or traumatic events that happened before a person passed. I think there's excessive energy or negativity, like in a prison. A lot of people were mad in there. They were treated terribly back then. I mean, not fed every day, kind of bad. That energy is still there. And I believe that even if we're alive, well, I feel like even if we're alive, if we were in a place and we put some of our negative energy there, not all of it goes with us when we leave. I think that it sometimes imprints even if we're not there. So I don't know if it's a spirit that died there or if it's just negative energy that's built up over time. I feel like it could be either. And then with shadow people, I'm not sure what to believe about them. I mean, I wrote a book on it. I had a lot of people tell me their different stories on it. I even freaked myself out over my Ring doorbell when I was writing it. I thought I saw a shadow guy outside and it was like waving. No, it freaked me out.
Tell me.
About that, I was writing this shadow people book and I was home alone, but I had written like 5 or 6 chapters straight. It was like midnight. Well, no, it was like 10:30. It wasn't midnight yet. Then my ring keeps going off and there's like a shadow person out by the sidewalk standing there. And I'm sitting there going, is that a real person? No way that's a real person. They're just standing. They know I have a camera. What the heck? So I keep checking it. And it looks like somebody's slightly moving, like just kind of wafting a little bit, like wispy. So I go to all the windows and I look out and I'm taking pictures. I can see it with my eyes, but when I take a picture, nothing shows up. And I'm like, is this a freaking ghost? Then I call James and he's like, well, look out the front door, like open the door and walk out. I'm like, dude, what if the guy's gonna kill me? I'm not gonna, what if it's a serial killer? I'm not gonna walk out there. So anyways, finally he talks me into getting in my car and leaving because I feel stupid calling police. And when I pull out, I realize it was actually a tree. They're saying that's how much you can freak yourself out over doing one thing for so long. So I posted that on Instagram and all the videos and photos I took so people could get a good laugh at me. But shadow people, I'm not quite sure what to think. I've had night terrors and sleep paralysis a lot. I've looked up the science of it because it was driving me crazy and I wanted to know what was happening to me. Obviously, scientists say that a chemical releases in our brain when we go to sleep that paralyzes us. And if we wake up early, it hasn't worn off yet, which can cause the sleep paralysis part where you can't move. And also the shadow person or the intense feeling of being watched or terror could be if you had a nightmare in it, woke up early, you're paralyzed. The chemical still being in your system can cause you to hallucinate as well. So that explains a lot of the whole phenomenon. But I have had the old hag screaming in my face at my first house, which really freaked me out. It does feel super real. I don't,
Also, it's
and that's why
rather
I looked up the whole site.
convenient. It's rather convenient or inconvenient, the old hag effect phenomena. In the, for example, as you were saying, that the chemical can lead you to hallucinate. But why does everybody hallucinate the old hag?
Yeah.
That would almost imply that can't be the case. You know, if it was hallucinating, why are you not seeing Mickey
Yeah.
Mouse and I see Michael Jordan? You know, why is that? Why are we hallucinating the exact same thing? Is that such a specific chemical reaction that it makes everybody see that specific hallucination? That doesn't work with any other hallucinogenic compound to trigger the
that does not
exact
make sense. No, that part doesn't make sense because I believe the two that I recall are the Hat Man, which I've seen in a dream as a kid, and the old hag. And I mean, I Googled it after I saw her. I put screaming lady in my face while I'm asleep, and that lady came up. This same exact person everybody else has seen.
The Hat Man does as well. That's a common one.
Yeah. Yeah. And it does look like that. You don't really make out the face. It's just a shadow with like a tall hat on. It's crazy. And that guy was in my dream. He was floating on a ceiling, following me from room to room and just watching me. And I think I was 6, and that dream freaked me out. I would walk into a different room and it was pitch black in the rooms, but I could see him floating on the ceiling, just like following me. My oldest daughter, she's kind of empathetic like me. She feels things. She's heard whispering under my bed. And so she won't be in my room by herself. So when she takes a bath, she brings because everybody likes my bathtub. It's huge. So she'll take a bath in there, but she brings the dog because she won't be in there by herself. She said she's seen shadow people walk in my room, which has freaked me out before. So they're not scared of it, but I think it kind of opens doors with those two because one's 11 and the other one's 14. And then my 7-year-old son, I don't talk about a lot around him because he's kind of, he's young and still impressionable. I don't want to freak him out, but he knows what I write about. I just don't openly talk about a lot of it with him like I do like my 14-year-old. She'll be like, did you catch EVPs? And we'll talk about it. I won't be like, hey, come here. Mommy wants to show you an EVP. He's not sleeping in my bed for a week. Yeah, you get that.
So you've obviously had way more experiences than, well, certainly than I have, but I would hazard a guess more experiences than your everyday person has. Yet you still do it. You still are going on investigations. You're still writing books. You're still keeping your exposure to it open. Have you not felt like you want to stop?
I do. I'll take breaks sometimes. Like after the shadow book, I took a break for a minute. I had another one already in editing, but I took a break for a minute because obviously I was freaking myself out thinking a tree was something outside to get me. But I will take breaks because it's pretty chill in my house. And then stuff will start happening like for a whole week. And I'll be like, oh, okay. And I'll stop. I'll chill out. And it goes back to normal for a while. So yeah, I do feel like I stir things up. But at the same time, if I keep being afraid of it, I'm giving it power over me.
Sure.
So I don't want to be afraid of it. It can be creepy when you're not expecting something to happen, for sure. But I'm not going to let it have power over me. It already did that at another house. And that was probably a really low point in my life. And I'm here to get answers. That's what I want. That's why I started writing. That's why I started interviewing people and doing what I do. I just want answers. I want to figure some of this out. Am I going to have all the answers in this lifetime? No, I'm not. Like what you said. It's not going to happen. But I want as many as I can find. However long that takes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if we ever will until we die. I guess apparently one day we will, but whenever that is. I have a couple friends who are skeptic and stuff. So when things happen, I'm like, did you hear that? Did you see that? No, that was probably just da da da. But did you hear it? Yes. I get that. Yes.
Yeah.
And my hubby's kind of the same way. We
What
were
is it?
recording a podcast episode on one of ours, and I was facing him this way. He was on the couch, and he was looking at me all weird. And I was like, why are you looking at me weird? And he's like, I have a fish tank in the kitchen. He's like, did you see there was a shadow that walked in front of the fish tank? And I'm like, what? So he saw a shadow basically walk in front of the fish tank. And I don't believe in crystals. I think they're silly, but the activity in my house started ramping up. So I actually got crystals and I put some over by the fish tank where he saw the shadow. And then I have some on the other side of my living room here. If they're clear, if there's bad energy, it'll eventually start absorbing it and they'll cloud over. So I checked them the other day and most of them are entirely clouded over except for like 3. So I thought that was odd.
Really?
So now I'm not a skeptic on the crystals anymore, I don't think. I think they might be doing something because it is weird that I looked at them before I set them out. They were clear. And you can't see through most of them anymore at all. And some of them are like really clouded. So that was interesting. And there's like 20 or 30 of them in here. And like I said, I looked at them the other night and they're like clouded and this one's clear. So most of them are all clouded over. I thought that was odd. But that's what they're supposed to do if they're absorbing energy. And I have not had anything weird happening in the last couple weeks since I've set this out. So I don't know if it's really going to stop it. Like I said, I don't know how much I believe that a rock can. But so far, nothing weird. And they are clouding over like they're supposed to be. So who knows?
And, with respect, if you're going to believe in some parts of this, why not believe in others? The concept that a little rock can absorb energy is a little bit far-fetched, but isn't the rest of it?
Yeah. I try to keep an open mind. I hear a lot of stories, and when I think about it, their experiences aren't mine. I could tell somebody a weird experience I had, and they'd be like, but it happened to me. I know it happened to me. Same with them. Some of them have odd stories, but they feel like that really happened to them. And I need to respect that. Some people really believe in crystals and stuff. I'm not still quite sure what I believe in with it, but I will say my rocks clouded over. That's what they were supposed to do. So
yeah, the proof's there in your
so far
hands.
so good.
Yeah. Tell me about your books. You've got a whole load of them. Tell me about some of your favorites and some of the favorite stories that you've maybe gathered over the years of doing it.
Well, my favorites are haunted hotels and haunted hospitals. Probably haunted hospitals, just because if you think about it, so many people die there. And if you feel the same way I do about energy, there is so much built up energy in a hospital. It's got to be insane.
High traffic area as well, isn't it? Both of them are hotels too.
Yeah, I mean, there's been deaths in hotels, probably, definitely not as much as hospitals, but there are some creepy ones. Hospitals is my favorite book. There's been a lot of stories in there. I'm not going to give them all away, but it's People hear and see things that they can't explain. You know, they're walking down a hallway, they took a patient to a room, walked past an empty room, and they're like, wait, I just see somebody on that bed. They go in there, no one's in there, obviously. And there's a lot of stories like that, or a couple where, well, there's, I think, two about the morgue area where they were transporting bodies and had weird experiences during that, which I think is interesting. I don't know if you've seen the movie, The Autopsy of Jane Doe. Have you seen that movie?
No, I haven't seen it.
It's a horror movie. It's really good. You should watch it.
I haven't even heard
Freaky.
of it.
But when I was writing them and reading there, because I interview people, it's freaky. Any listeners that have seen it will know it's freaky.
Okay.
But there's a couple stories in there that are kind of like that. I mean, just when I was writing them, I was like, oh, this totally reminds me of this. So when I interview people, I take their stories, obviously, like the facts, and I rewrite it into story format. Sometimes I add dialogue. Not all of them always have dialogue. But the hospital one was creepy, more so. I'm sure we could all say that we've probably had somebody that passed away in a hospital, right? A lot of people have had people pass away in hospitals. My mom passed away, I'm thinking really quick, 6 years ago in a hospital very suddenly. She got a cold and went downhill very quickly, and they couldn't figure out why. And I, at that time, I was living in that haunted house. And all of it combined was like, I wonder if she's still lingering here. Like, what about all these spirits? Like, what's in my house? And all that together, I started writing about the hospitals back then a little bit. But the experiences have been similar. People feel the entities of their dead ones when they're passing. There's like a moment of peace or anger, depending on the person. I don't know. It's just cool. All the stories and different perspectives, and creepy sometimes too. And then haunted hospitals is about a lot of it's about people who travel. They travel to the hotels and they have different experiences. Some purposefully go stay in hotels that are haunted. I have a couple of stories of that, and I have other people that went on vacations or business trips and had weird stuff happen, like shadow people showing up in the bathroom, or shadows next to the bed, or the feeling of somebody crawling into your bed and the bed imprinting, but nothing is there in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say my stories are all terrifying. I don't think it's going to make you wet your bed, but it depends on the story. Some are really creepy and some are not so creepy, but more eye-opening. One of the stories that I love the most, that I think it's probably one of the shortest ones, but I think because it was a 911 dispatcher that I talked to. It was just creepy. So she gets a call from a lady and her daughter, and they're freaked out in the house. And the lady's like, something's in the house. I'm pretty sure something's in the house or someone. And the lady's like, okay, I'm going to send people to you. They're on the way. She's hearing like clattering, and the girl's like, I'm scared. And she's like, well, what is it? Is it a person? And she's like, I don't think it's a person. She's telling her, she's thinking it's like an entity, this whole call. And then she hears more noises and the line goes dead. And when people get there, obviously the 911 caller, your job is to take the call. Once, first responders are there, your job's pretty much over at that point. And so she didn't really get to know what happened, but she got a hold of a friend that was in the police department. I was like, can you just let me know what happened? The lady died. When they got there, she was dead. And from a condition which is called, dying of fright. I can't remember the exact term of it at the moment. There's an exact term for that condition, but it's also dubbed dying from fright. So that one really freaked me out, because this lady the entire time is listening to this freaky call of what is possibly some paranormal entity, because the lady thought it was an intruder, but she's like, it's not an intruder. This thing is something I've never seen. and then passed away, apparently being scared to death. So that one really sticks in my mind. And then there's another one of a couple who used to go to estate sales, yard sales, auctions. They have an antique shop. So they go find antiques and they end up getting this clock. And the wife always usually gets one or two things that she keeps. The rest is for the store. She gets a clock and keeps it, and they start having weird scratching noises under the bed or on the walls. Voices under the bed while they're trying to sleep in the middle of the night. The husband gets up to go to the bathroom and sees a dark shadow figure in the bathroom, and it starts staring at him and following him out of the bathroom to the point where he's terrified. They finally get rid of it and everything stops. So those are a couple of mine that I can remember. And they're kind of the collector is one of my favorites. That's the one I just told you about. It's creepier when you read it, but yeah, I like it because as a kid, I went yard selling with my dad, and he would always be like, I'm gonna give you $1, and I have $1, and whoever can buy the most stuff for this $1 wins both dollars. And I was like, okay, because back then in the 80s, that was a lot of money. So when I heard this story and I was writing it from the person, that kind of reminded me of that with my dad. Like, I really connected with the characters in it. And I was like, man, I know what it's like to get like that little trinket that you love, but then it turns evil. I was like, that's crazy. Haunted objects are interesting. There's quite a lot. There's even a haunted pool. Somebody thought their pool was haunted. So I know. Odd, right? Yeah.
By the book.
Yeah.
So you've done hotels, hospitals, objects, many, many more. What's next?
Actually, I'm working on some novellas that are going to be fictional ones, but based on true stories. But because I'm changing them so much, I refuse to call them nonfiction. And I'm actually going to do a book on near-death experiences because I have drowned twice. And I think that's interesting.
You have what?
I've drowned twice. I drowned when I was 4, and I drowned when I was 16.
Not in a haunted pool.
I don't have good luck with water. No. No, when I was 4, I was riding a triker on my friend's pool, and they had the cover on the pool, but they had released it, so it was just lightly on there. And the wheel caught the side of the pool, and I fell in, and I couldn't figure out how to get out because the cover was still above me. And they got me out and gave me CPR. And then when I was 16, I was swimming with a bunch of friends, and I was at that age where I know better than anybody else. And my whole friends are like, don't jump out right there. There's a fish ladder. I'm a really good swimmer. I took swimming lessons for a long time and did a lot of swimming. So I was like, oh, whatever. You guys are full of it. I can totally like jump out and land past it. No, I landed right in it and it pulled me under and I drowned. So me and water, I mean, I'll get in a pool if I can't see the bottom. Huh?
So that obviously has sparked interest in near-death experiences. Did you experience something when you were going through that then that's made that a thing for you?
Not really. I mean, I don't remember a lot. I don't remember seeing a light or anything like that. When I drowned, obviously I don't remember what happened when I was 4. Like, I don't know if I saw a light or not. But at 16, I did not see a light. So I jumped out and there was a heavy current and it pulled me under. And so I'm trying to gasp for breath and being pulled under at the same time my knees are scraping against concrete. And it's like steps. And so you're like, like along all the stairs the whole time. And so I remember my lungs were exploding or feeling like they were exploding after I couldn't get a breath for a while. And it was just the pain on my knees too, is scraping and scraping. And then finally the pain went away from not being able to breathe. And it probably wasn't that long. It felt like 2 or 3 minutes, but obviously it probably wasn't that long. And then it just felt peaceful. I just felt like I was floating away. But I don't remember a light. I remember it was peaceful though, and blackness. So, but yeah, that has me wondering. I have also read the stories of reincarnation, like I believe the kid in Africa who told his mom and dad and family about his own death, that he was murdered by his neighbor,
Oh
and then
yeah,
come
yeah.
to find out it was real. Yeah, so there's
There's
some
so
stories that I don't.
if you start looking into that, I tell you what, people can remember their death in past life. People can remember pre-birth,
Mhm.
post-natal, no, prenatal memories. Um, there are cases which are really, really weird of kids who, and it seems that the memory tends to fade. These abilities to remember these things are only present in really young kids. And therefore there's always that gray area like I have of, can you believe them? Was it just something weird that a kid says? Because by the time they're 5, 6, 7, the memory goes. But cases of kids who can remember who say they picked their parents. They remember being in a place and being there for a long, long time and then choosing who they wanted to be their mum. I saw you drove the orange car, you had your hair up like this, and the mum used to have an orange car back in the 80s and she wore her hair, and the 4-year-old would never know that. Really, 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 really weird
Hmm.
things. Really weird things. And that all links into
Yeah, I haven't heard that
near
one.
death, after death, and therefore, if you follow the circle round, that kind of pre-life memory, really, really strange.
My books are on Amazon and Walmart and any retailer online. I just released 50 ghost stories yesterday on Amazon, and that's a collection of 50 different stories that are all my favorites that I've written from every book. Pretty much there's something from every book. Up next for writing, I'm working on a paranormal fictional book about one of the stories I've already written. And it's going to be really good. It's really creepy. I'm actually co-writing it with R. Harrell, who's helped me with a couple books that I've written. But I do want to do it's called Nearly Dead. I want to do that one next, which is the near-death experiences. That one has me kind of intrigued too. And I do have some that I'm going to start doing one about cryptids and UFOs. So I kind of tackle all genres. But yes, those are, right now I want to try doing a fictional book and then do a couple different genres. So
Awesome. And where can people follow you? Do you have Twitter and Instagram and all that?
I don't tweet. I never really got Twitter, to be honest with you. But I do have Instagram and Facebook, and it's eves.evansauthor on either one of them.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come and talk to me and telling me all your weird and wonderful tales. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, bye.
Peer Beyond the Veil has been written and presented by myself, Mark Watson, as part of the Fearscape Media Network. Music and soundtracks are credited and licensed to Purple Planet and to Kevin MacLeod, licensed under Creative Commons. All rights are reserved by our parent company, MLW Publishing. You can follow us at facebook.com/Peer Beyond the Veil, or on Twitter at Peer Beyond the Veil or at Peer Beyond 2020. Please click the like and subscribe buttons when you see them, most importantly wherever you listen to your podcasts. It helps us to attract the attention we need to keep the show going, to get the guests that you all want to hear from, and to help more and more people